it's attempting to start the event. We are live. How about that?
Hello.
So far, nobody's here except us.
It's a great start.
It's a great start. We've got a lot of people where it's, oh, there's somebody showed up. Okay. So Kathy and RA are here. All right. Well, let's give this some time while we're waiting for people to come in. We're going to try and test a couple things again because we want to see if we can get the screen sharing work. So I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen again, Jay, and see if this works.
Sure.
Of course, it does not.
Doesn't look that way.
Does it? It's not looking good. There's more people starting to show up. Hey, everybody, we're going to start really shortly. We're trying to get the screen sharing working in this Webinar Jam application that I'm using. Has become so buggy that it just doesn't work anymore. All right, let me see if I can figure this out. Everybody, welcome to the event. We're just working through some bugs here. Let me try this one more time. Let me try it with a different window and see what happens. If everybody's here, just stand by. We're trying to do some screen sharing stuff here.
You look lovely, though.
Oh, well, so do you, Jay. It's nice to see.
Even if we don't get a screen share, that looks really good.
Well, the screen share is not working. It is absolutely not working. So what we're probably going to do is just do this without the screen sharing. How about that?
Yeah. We'll make it work.
We're going to have to, Jay. That's just the way it goes.
It's technology. We're all used to it.
All right. Well, people are filing in. It's 2:00. I can give them another minute or so to really get started. My book is being covered up by my mic stand. I was trying to feature my one and only traditionally published book.
I was going to say, you're plugging Wiley, aren't you? Is that what you really want to do?
Technically, yes. But funny story about this book. It was supposed to be like orange barrel color.
Right.
And it came back like this combination of like salmon, and it's just like not what I wanted.
Yeah, you were not happy about that.
It was the first strike. Yeah, I was not happy when I got that book back and it looked that way. So all right, well, looks like we're gonna have a lot of people are gonna be watching this on a replay, assuming it records. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit record. We're gonna get started. Okay, here we go. All right. Well, welcome to the event, everybody. Thanks for joining us. If you're here live, we're glad to have you here because we'll be taking a lot of questions if you have them. If you're watching this on a replay, hey, you watch it whenever you can, wherever you are in the world. I'm Jim Kukrow from Author Marketing Club, and we're joined by Jay Thorne, best-selling author. Jay, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great as well. I'm hoping that it's recording face as well on this recording, so I guess we'll find out. I see a split screen. Is that what you see?
Yeah, it just switched over, so we're now on a split screen.
So hopefully it's covering both of those things. So thanks to everybody who showed up today. We're here to talk about the power of collaboration. Jay, you have been doing a lot of collaboration. Well, first of all, let's start with this. If people don't know who you are, kind of give them a brief bio of what you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, why would they, right?
They might. Not. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, I've been. I tell you what. While I'm talking, I'm going to unplug my earbud. So if you need to if you need to interrupt me, raise my hand because I'm getting some feedback. But I'll just start by saying that I'm a fiction writer, and I started, I guess I started drafting around 2008, 2009, and since that time, I've published about 1.7 million words, something like that. Sold 100 and some thousand books worldwide, and have really been focusing more on collaboration over the past few years.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing this, because you really have been a big force in the collaboration world when it comes to being an author. But I think you're being a little humble. You have done some really cool collaboration things, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about today. But I have also done some collaborations. Zara says our voice is echoing. Do you have earbuds or a headset?
Yeah, that's what I was hearing too.
When you unplugged your headset, maybe is it still echoing now, Zara? When he's talking? Go ahead and say something, Jay.
Okay, I'm going to try talking again. Hello.
We're having tech fail. I always get so frustrated with this kind of stuff. It's 2017 and we're still dealing with this. I mean, okay, so when your headset's plugged in, Jay,
yeah,
it's fine. You have to leave it in and just deal with it.
All right. So it's fine right now, is what you guys are saying?
She said, Janelle said it's like being hit in the ear with a big bag of cats.
Right now it's like that? Is what I'm talking right now? Before.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just suck it up and deal with it then.
So, all right. So I've done 2 books in collaboration as well. You've done, I think, 3, right?
No, but I don't know. A lot.
A lot? Okay.
A lot.
So what we're talking about today is this collaboration. So let's just jump right into it, because it can be something that can work very well for an author moving forward. So let's talk about a couple of the books that you did. So the ones that I know about are, let's talk about Dusk, the Final Awakening book. You did that with Zach Bohannon. Let's talk about that one.
I hate talking about Zach. It just makes his head big, but I guess I'll have to give him some credit. Yeah, we can work backwards. I've done a lot of collaboration, and I lose track of them over time. So I kind of pulled up a list, and we can reference some of these because they're not all books either. I think, like you, Jim, even podcasting is a type of collaboration, and there are marketing collaborations, and there are creative collaborations, and all of those I think can be really helpful. But so we can start the latest one and work backwards. Zach Bohannon and I have been friends for a while, and we went to New Orleans with Lindsay Broker and Joanna Penn back in March, and we co-wrote American Demon Hunter Sacrifice together. And Zach and I had co-written a little something before that, and we had decided, we were both sort of approaching full-time writing around the same time, and we decided that there was a lot of power in collaboration, and we wanted to write something together. So our first effort was a trilogy called The Final Awakening, and the first book, Dawn, came out in May, I believe, early May, and our second book comes out on Friday, and then the third book of the trilogy comes out in September. And both of us have seen success in this most recent trilogy, unlike anything we've seen before. And I think a lot of that is learning the ropes of collaboration, and also learning how to write books that are more marketable and more appealing to more people, specific people. So this recent one, Dawn, is doing very well. We're really happy with it. We're expecting to break about 1 million sometime in the next 3 weeks, give or take, based on the pace of page reads so far.
And that's a huge success. So let's talk about the details of collaboration. All right, so I have 2 books that I've collaborated on. They are The Webinar Way, I did with a woman named Sherry Rose. And then I did another book let's make sure I get this right. What is another book called What is Personal Branding with a guy named Murray Newlands. And both these books I think I did like 4 years ago. And for the Webinar Way, I only did like probably 10% of the writing. And then for the other one, I did half the writing. And I found them to be really great tools for me to produce books more quickly, collaborating with somebody else. There were some challenges that I faced, and one of the biggest ones that I had was who publishes the book. In both of the cases, I ended up publishing the book, but then all the payments come to me, all the taxes come to me, and then I gotta, and then one of them I didn't have a contract with the other author, and it's like that's a big challenge when it comes to collaboration, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah, it definitely is. And one of the things that I've learned is it doesn't matter how formal, informal, short, or long it is. You got to have an agreement in place. And even before you get to a written agreement, you have to have an understanding between the collaborators about the different roles that people have. Every collaboration is different, even with the same person. Like Joanna Penn and I wrote Risen Gods together, and then we were part of the collaboration from New Orleans in the spring. And even between those two, it was very different in sort of what we did and how we did it. So I think one of the really important aspects of collaboration is being very clearly communicative up front and making sure everyone understands all the roles that are involved, and that's everything from creative creation all the way through to the publishing.
So let's start at the beginning. So let's say that somebody wants to get into collaboration. How do you approach that? In my examples, it was one of them reached out to me, and I reached out to the other one. And basically, in my experience, it's just been somebody saying, look, we can get this done quicker and faster and better if we work together. How did you handle your collaboration outreach? Because I think that stops a lot of people. I think people think, oh, well, I couldn't possibly reach out to somebody and ask that question. What did you do?
Yeah, I kind of did it backwards. And I think part of the reason for that for me was because I didn't really know what I was doing. And, one of the things that I recommend to people a lot with collaboration is to collaborate with someone you already have a relationship with. I think it's really hard to cold email someone and ask for that level of commitment. I mean, it's not a perfect analogy, but if you think of dating, hopefully you wouldn't ask someone to marry you the first time you meet them. There would be a courtship, or a friendship that starts. And I think for collaboration, it's the same way. Most of my most successful collaborations didn't start with a cold email. They started with a friendship that eventually grew into a collaboration. So I think that's one thing I would highly recommend to people. The other thing I would recommend is go in with an offer and not ask. And that's sort of counterintuitive. I think a lot of people think like, well, I'll ask someone to collaborate with me. And really the way I started in the publishing industry is I went with an offer. I went to other writers in my genre who I knew were selling a lot more books than I was. And this was in 2011, 2012. And I said, I know how to format ebooks into multi-author box sets. I will do all the formatting. I'll do all the collection. I'll do all the royalty distribution. If you want to be in it, all you got to do is say yes. And so I made it really easy, and I sort of took on the burden of most of the work in order, because I knew I was going to get something out of it as well, but I went offering something to other writers instead of asking for something.
Yeah, that's a huge point. I mean, if you're going to start contacting people, even friends and people you're associated with, and just saying, hey, here's some work for you, they're not going to respond usually.
Right.
That's why I think it's important to go to like these events and meet other authors, because the relationships you build with people really turn into amazing things for you down the road. Just saying, hey, remember that time we actually met at that show? It's such an icebreaker, or we met, it just helps. So that has worked for me as well, and obviously knowing some people. So maybe if you're watching this right now and you're thinking to yourself, I want to do collaboration, start thinking about all the people that you've met, or at least on Facebook or some other thing, some writers group or something like that you could reach out. And I love your point about an offer instead of an ask. Yeah. So You say to those people, you know, look, I'm willing to do the heavy lifting of this partnership. I'm willing to do the publishing and work to get the book cover design and all of this stuff. And all I need you to do is be part of this collaboration, either with content you already have or create new content or whatever it is. So that's the next question then. Does it have to be new content if you're doing a collaboration, or can people take stuff that they have previously and put it together? I mean, how does that all work?
Yeah, there's an infinite number of possibilities. There's no one right way to collaborate. I started, you know, I have a history as a musician, and being in a band, being in a rock band is by definition a collaboration. You have to work with other people in writing the songs, in performing the songs. I'm not talking about a solo artist, but even a solo artist has to take, you know, a band on the road, or they have to work with a band for live performance. And so I think for me, it was something I was always comfortable doing. But one of the ways in that is to really think about something you're good at in the process that you could take the lead on. So even if it's not a perfect 50-50 distribution of work, let's say you're a really good proofreader. Well, maybe you can put that offer out there and say, listen, you know, anyone who, you know, if you want to be part of this project, I'll do all the proofreading because I'm really good at that. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's necessarily a perfect distribution of work, but you're offering something. And to your question, Jim, it doesn't always have to be new stuff. A few years ago, I was pretty persistent with Clive Barker's people, and I was able to get his permission to do a video adaptation of a short piece that he wrote. And so it's not a true collaboration because I didn't work directly with Clive Barker, but I was able to take an existing work and kind of adapt it. And that's a form of collaboration. So I guess my point is there's a whole spectrum, and that, you know, just to be creative and think about what you're good at and what you can bring to it and what you can offer people. And that's going to open up a lot of avenues.
How many more books do you think you could produce using a collaboration every single year? As opposed, like, say you were committed to doing one book a year, do you think you could do 3 or 4 or 5 more collaborations, or what do you think?
Yeah, I don't, the math is fuzzy, and I think it depends on who you talk to. So, like, I think our natural inclination is to think, well, if I write by myself and I publish 3 books a year, if I write with someone else, I'll publish 6. And that's not always the case in both directions. I think what I'm finding out, especially with Zach, is that what we produce, the quality is better than what the two of us could do on our own. So it's not necessarily half the time, although we continually improve our process and our system, and we're getting faster for sure. And I think within 6 months, Zach and I will be producing far more books than either of us can do on our own. But I think the real gem and the real value is that we're both writing this story together, and it's just going to be a better story. And we're already seeing evidence of that. I mean, the Final Awakening series is off to a better start than anything either of us have written. And I don't think that's an accident. I think we studied the market. Zach is really good about identifying the type of reader we want, and then we wrote a story for that reader, and we did it together, and it's just better than what we would have done on our own.
That's a really interesting point, that you're working together to develop something better than you both could produce on your own. And, you know, that's true. And I think what a lot of people don't know about you is you are an introvert. I mean, you have an introvert podcast, right?
Yeah, I'm. In fact, on the Myers-Briggs, there's a scale, and there are certain there are different types of extroverts and introverts, and I'm what's known as an INTJ, which is on the introversion scale is like about as far right as you could go. It's like less than 2% of the population. And according to the Myers-Briggs, like, I'm the type of person who would never interact with another human being if I didn't have to. So yeah, you raise a good point. And when I tell people, especially other writers who a lot of them tend to be introverts, I say, like, hey, if I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. So collaboration is let me get back to the introvert thing, because I've seen you speak at my show, and you brought down the house at the show. I mean, it was an amazing presentation, and I would have never thought, this guy's an introvert up there on the stage. But you have a teaching background, right? So you're used to being up and instructing people and being in front of a crowd. But not everyone's like that. But people have to learn how to. I think the biggest advice I can have for people in collaboration is learning how to just open yourselves up and take a chance and actually communicate with somebody else and try it. The most, I'm an entrepreneur. The most success I've ever had has been, I can tell you a story. Every successful venture I've ever had has been for me just saying, let me try it. And a lot of people are introverts, don't want to interact with other people, or people who don't want to be entrepreneurs are worried about failing, so they don't even give it a try. But then, you may look back at your success, 5 years from now and say you may have 20 collaborative books written with Zach or other people, and that may be funding you for the next 10 to 20 years. So you always have to go out there and try. Terry says, I'm an introvert too. How can you collaborate without starting to hate each other? To me, it sounds like a way to come up with creative ways to kill someone. So that's a question for you. Or for
you, it goes back to something we talked about a little bit earlier, which is, Zach and I were friends before we worked together, and in full transparency, I've had a number of collaborations that failed and didn't see the light of day. And some of those were process-oriented failures. Others failed because of personality differences. And there's no guarantee. I mean, again, it's not a perfect analogy, but if you think about dating, you can say, well, I'm not going to date because there's a chance I'm going to get my heart broken or I'm not going to find the right person. Well, then your option is you don't date. Whereas if you date or you make attempts at collaboration, you're gonna figure out the ways to do it. And the other thing that I think is important to note is that whether you're an introvert or not, collaboration is really difficult. And sometimes it's really hard and sometimes it doesn't work. And you learn from that. And I've learned a ton from my collaborations that have failed. And I use that in moving forward. And I think if we go to even a higher level, we're really not talking about collaboration anymore. We're talking just about learning and growing. If you don't take risks, if you don't try stuff, and you don't fail, you're not going to grow. You're not going to get better.
Yeah, well, I think it's about the time for us to kind of announce what we're doing this fall. And then we'll talk about that a little bit as we move forward. So Jay and I are putting together a writer's retreat in Cleveland, Ohio this fall. And it's a 2-day event called Unleashing the Power of Collaboration. So if anyone is anywhere near Cleveland, Ohio, or you want to fly out, it's going to be a really interesting event where we're going to talk about collaboration for 2 days. It's a full writer's retreat, and we're only going to have 25 people at this event. So if this is something you are interested in, you're close to Cleveland, you're going to want to check out the information after. But some of the things we're going to be talking about at that event are mostly you, because you're the collaboration expert. I'll be helping out as much as I can. Obviously, we were going to talk about why collaborating. We talked a little bit about that. It's going to talk about the not one size fits all for collaboration, in the general thing. But one of the things when you sent me over a syllabus, and one of the things you kind of said was, an entire novel? Are you nuts? And I think a lot of people think that they can't produce something that big. Is that where you're going with that headline? Is that you think you can do, that you think you can't do it, but you really can?
There's multiple levels to that. So I think one of the things that I would want to mention about what we're doing together in Cleveland is we're going to dig really into the how. And because there's only going to be a maximum of 25 people there, we're going to be able to show you how to do a lot of this stuff. Right now, we're talking about the what, and we can't really show you the how on a webinar. But that's what we're going to do. And part of it is I'm going to sort of I'm going to open up my past, and I'm going to share with people real experiences. This is something I've lived. It's not an academic exercise for me. Collaboration is something I've done and continue to do. And I'm going to show people what worked and what didn't, and tell them how to avoid that. And one of the things that becomes overwhelming for people, and this is where the title of that segment came from, was people think like, oh, well, I can only collaborate on a novel. Like, there's no way I can collaborate on a whole novel. That's impossible. Well, first of all, it's not. And I can show you how to collaborate on a novel. But secondly, a novel isn't the only way to collaborate. You can collaborate on a short story. You can collaborate on a novella. You can collaborate on the marketing side. And that's kind of where I started with the multi-author box sets, was doing marketing collaborations, not even involving creative collaboration. So there's a lot of flavors, and I've done a lot of them, and a lot of different types of collaborations, and I've messed up a lot of them. And so I have some experience and battle scars that I can show people, and hopefully they can avoid those same mistakes.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about the Cleveland event. The how is what you're going to get in this retreat. It's not just, stuff that you can read on a web page or see on a webinar or whatever that. It's going to be hands-on stuff. And that's why we limited it to only 25 seats, because if you get too big of a room, you're not going to be able to help people specifically that are in the room, right? And you were very adamant on that. And you said that you definitely did not have a certain amount of people just for that reason.
Right. And you and I are not in the full-time author collaboration training business. Like, that's not why we're doing this. We're not looking to scale it. It's really more about teaching people the how and helping them out with that.
You there?
Oh, hey. Yeah. You still there?
I'm here. I don't know where I went, but blacked out there.
Yeah, you just you took a quick little power nap or something.
Yeah. So continue what you were saying. I don't even know if this is recording. The sound might be off. The recording's off. We may be redoing this all over again. So let's just do it.
No, I think what I was saying is that there are many ways to collaborate, and because I've done so many different types of collaboration and I'm living this, it's not an academic exercise. And you and I are not trying to build an empire out of teaching collaboration. This is, for both of us, this is kind of like a little passion project side thing. We're not trying to scale it or take over the world with collaboration. We're just hopefully hoping to be able to help other people get started with collaboration, because it's so powerful.
Another one of the sessions that you have written down for the event this fall is collections, anthologies, and box sets. Oh my. And you kind of alluded to this a little bit before. There are different types of collaborations you can do. I've never done collections or anthologies or box sets. I just did straight up, I'm writing one nonfiction book with somebody else. Mm-hmm. However, I could definitely see myself doing something bigger in the future if I was still really trying to push and publish a lot of books, which I'm not these days. But so you have difference between collections, anthologies, and box sets. You've done all three of them, haven't you?
I have, yeah. They're really sort of variations or different degrees of what would be more marketing collaborations, I think. So I think, in the traditional publishing world, something that most people are probably familiar with is an anthology. So what you get is, let's say you get a thematic collection of short stories, haunted houses. You might have 10 different writers take a short story about a haunted house, and they put them together into one publication, and they sell that as an anthology. So that's a type of collaboration. That's a very traditional one. It's been around a long time. It's very effective.
That's 10 different stories, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. And 10 is an arbitrary number. I mean, it could be 6, it could be 60, but the idea is that they're distinct stories from different authors, and they're usually on a theme.
But is that kind of like the Black Fang betrayal you did?
That one's a little different. So
I read that one. I really enjoyed that book, but they were all different authors in that book.
Yeah, so that one was more of a true collaboration, because I managed that project, and I assigned each author to write a certain part of it. And each author had to come up with like a starting point and an ending point.
It was all one story.
It was all one story, right? An anthology is just a collection.
It's just a collection of a bunch of different stories.
Right.
And then a box set would be just other people's books all smashed into one book, right?
Yeah, it would be like an anthology, except instead of using a short story, you're using longer length books like novellas or novels.
Sarah says, how do you know when a project needs collaboration or not? I'm not sure how you answer that.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I don't know if collaboration is something you add like editing. I don't see it that way. I will say that both Zach and I are continuing to write our own stuff, so we're not completely abandoning our own author platforms. But writing is very strange in that most entertainment mediums today, by definition, require collaboration. Like if you are a fan of a television show, every episode is written by a team of writers. There's probably 8 to 10 people in a room writing a single episode together. That's just how television is produced. Same with movies, same with music. In fact, it's pretty rare that you end up with a work of art or a piece of entertainment that's being created by a single person. So in a way, I think authors are very antiquated in that approach. And so I don't know if that answers our question, but I think what I'm getting at is that authors are now sort of catching up. And while you can still write stuff on your own perfectly fine, I really see collaboration as the future for publishing.
I was watching, it's funny, last night I was watching a show called The History of Comedy, and it was the edition on topical comedy. And I learned that Bob Hope was the first comedian to really utilize a group of writers to write jokes for him. And until then, it was the concept was just nobody did that, and then that spawned pretty much, comedian writing groups for late night talk show hosts and that whole thing. And so you have the two people who just wrote on their own, just like an author, or who worked with somebody else to help them produce the content. So I totally buy that concept. And if you can prove that your work is better working with somebody else, heck yeah, why wouldn't you do it? Especially if you can produce it faster and can produce it better. I have another question from Janelle. Did you find that having someone waiting for your writing or having that kind of obligation made it easier to sit down and do your pages each day? In other words, does having a partner make you accountable?
Oh, totally. And I can give you two really good examples that happened by circumstance, not by design. I wish I could take credit for it. But I collaborate with Glyn James, who is a post-apoc dystopian author in the UK, and we're writing a series together called Dustfall, and we're currently on book 4. And as I mentioned before, I wrote with Joanna Penn also, and she's also in the UK. So because of the time difference, what would happen in the process would be like Joanna would get up and she would write her words, and in first thing in the morning, and then 6 hours later, she knew I was coming 6 hours later to read her words and then add mine. And I knew when I was working on mine that the next morning, that was the first thing Joanna was going to do was look at those words. So it absolutely does. It's the same concept as having like a workout buddy when you go to the gym. It's really hard to blow off your work. It's hard not to do it because you have that built-in accountability of a partner. And it's incredibly motivating and powerful, and it's scientifically proven, and it's without a doubt helps you to be more productive and more focused in your work.
That kind of leads into the next topic that we have listed for the Cleveland webinar this fall, which is epic fail. What happens when a collaboration isn't going to work? And I'm pretty sure you could tell within a couple of days or weeks if people aren't producing the words that you wanted to do, or if they're not helping. I've done plenty of business partnerships that aren't specific writing partnerships that have completely failed because everyone talks a big game, and then when it comes to the time to actually produce something, they don't actually get it done. So how do you know when it's going to fail? I guess the biggest way to know is if they're just not doing the work, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. I think you can also do a little bit of homework. And Jim, I'm sure you've seen this in your business ventures as well. in that past performance is the strongest indicator to future success. So if you're talking with someone who's talking a big, quote unquote, big game about writing, and you go and look at their platform and they don't have anything published, or they've published one 10,000 word short story, not that there's anything wrong with that. But if you're talking to someone about publishing a 3-volume trilogy of 180,000 words, and you look at what they've done in the past 5 years and it's been 10,000, that's probably an indicator that they may not be able to follow through even if they want to. So I think doing a little bit of homework, and again, this goes back to the relationship. If you know the person, you probably have a better understanding of their work ethic and their productivity than if you don't. But if you don't, being able to go and look up and see what they've done in the past is going to be a good indicator to what you might expect in the future.
Let's talk about the marketing aspect of this, because obviously you've got now 2, 3, 10 people collaborating together, have the ability to do much more than one single person could do for promoting the book. Talk about some of the ways that helps. It makes sense more people are doing it, but specifically, what can authors do that collaborate together to help promote the book better?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, and this is something you and Brian Cohen talk about on the Sell More Book Show all the time. But if you have an active, engaged mailing list, and it's something that you as an author work to build and cultivate, and you make connections with people through that, when it comes time to collaborate, if you're collaborating with another author who's sort of in the same headspace as you, you get to cross-pollinate your readerships. And you'd be surprised at how many readers don't know about other authors in the same genre. So, Glenn James is a perfect example. Glenn and I write very similar stuff. And before we started writing together, not many of my readers knew about him, and vice versa. So almost overnight, we could double or quadruple our readership just by introducing ourselves to each other's audience.
Tell me exactly how you did that partnership with Glenn. I mean, did you meet him before, or how did you just?
Yeah, this is kind of funny. Glenn and I have never spoken. I mean, not on Skype, not on the phone, and we're in our 4th collaborative book together. We've never spoken. So I just mentioned that because I know for a lot of the introverts out there who don't like to talk on the phone or don't like to jump on a webcam, it doesn't have to be that way. Glenn and I have been writing without that for years. But it really started, Glenn was in part of the multi-author box sets that I talked about in 2011, 2012. So I asked Glenn to be in the multi-author box sets. He was in it. And over the course of a number of years, we got to know each other through that. And that's what led to the creative collaboration. But it wasn't just a cold email or a cold introduction. It grew out of a pre-existing relationship.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people here, I'm pasting the link to the Cleveland event here in the chat here for people who want to see what we're talking about. Again, we have 25 seats available. We have not really announced this yet, and it's not till October. So there is an early bird price. If you can find a way to get yourself to Cleveland, it's going to be a really great event. We have this really amazing location for the event in this really classic location here on the east side of Cleveland. It's going to be beautiful, private, hands-on training. I'll be there at points to help. We're also doing one of the coolest things that we're doing with this is we're doing a virtual 3rd day session. So after the event, sometime in the future, probably a week or 2 after, we're going to do a 3rd day virtual event where it's going to be more stuff like this. We'll bring in some more experts and we'll talk about more of the marketing and stuff like that to help you out after that. And, of course, do follow up with you to answer questions. We'll do another Q&A session and stuff like that to get that going. So I'm curious, for the people in the room, are you anywhere near Cleveland? Because we don't know. I mean, when I do these things, I deal with people all over the country, right? All over the world, actually. I mean, I have people dial in from, Spain and from Australia and from Dubai. So you never know. It's like people can't, they're like, I can't come to Cleveland, Jim. So, but, we're both from this area. So that's why we're doing it here. If we, once we fill up this one and we do something else, we can do it in some other locations. Terry says, I'm in Holland. Well, that's not that close. And Janelle says, Canada. Canada's pretty close. If I look out my window out here over Lake Erie,
that's right.
I'm on the shores of Lake Canada, but only about 20 25, 30 miles across. So, look, guys, if you're interested in this, there's no decision you have to make today, but we are very excited to do this event for you, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, if you can find your way to get to Cleveland, come check it out, because we've only got a limited amount of seats to do this. So let's keep talking about this. If you guys have questions, now's the time, because we don't really have that much more time we're going to spend on this. If you have questions, this is a Q&A session. Take your time to ask them right now. Otherwise, I'll just ask a few more questions and we'll wrap up, and then we'll just kind of move forward, because we don't even know if this is recording, right?
It could be, maybe not. We don't know.
I don't know. You have another one in here called The Starving Artist, Collaborating Across Mediums. So I've done plenty of collaborations on podcasts and video shows. When YouTube first came out, I did a podcast called, before they were like literally called podcasts, it was called Video Ninjas. And we did a podcast about building YouTube videos and YouTube. And I think we did probably 80 episodes with my friend Steve Rosenbaum. And ultimately it died off. Sure. And then now I'm doing Sell More Book Show with Brian, where we're at over 3 years and 173 episodes. I've done all kinds of other collaborations and podcasts and videos where they've failed, but some have succeeded. So what do you mean by the starving artist and collaborating across mediums?
Yeah, I think you did a really good job of kind of hitting the essence of that. Really, I think one of the things we're talking about here is, even if you're a writer, it doesn't mean your collaboration can only be written word. That there are a number of opportunities, and in areas that have typically been, people have said, oh, you can't make money doing that. And I don't believe that. And that's why I threw like the starving artists on there. I know that, I don't make a ton of money from podcasting, but I'm in the black. I have a few podcasts, and the patrons for the podcast pay for the hosting, and they pay for some of the time that's involved. And so I think YouTubing, podcasting, music, theater, these are all collaborative possibilities that I'm not even sure are on a lot of people's radar. And so I'd love to be able to show people how to at least get started in that, and to understand that you don't have to give up time and not get compensated. There are ways to collaborate and make money as well.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, it looks like people are starting to funnel out of here. Maybe they got to go back to work. They're on their lunch break or whatever. Last chance for questions here. Before we wrap up, I do just want to say this was just our first attempt to get the word out about this conference that we're doing. It's not really a conference. It's a writer's retreat. I have to keep remembering to say it that way. The difference between a conference is people get in a big room and you go see sessions and you go around and you see different stuff. This is like taking 25 people and sticking them in a room, and more importantly, working with each one, like coming over the shoulder and helping them. So what can they expect to walk away with walking out of this writer's retreat? You had mentioned some of the things, but I want to hear it from you specifically. What can they expect to have when they leave this?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I think about, the most important thing that I consider in something like this, is I want people to walk out on Sunday night or Monday morning or whenever it is and feel like they can start something the next day. Right. I want them to be equipped with the basic skills and the strategies to implement. And I know personally, a lot of times I've gone to conferences and workshops and conventions, and I get really excited and I get inspired, and then I come home and I don't really do anything with it. So I want people to be able to walk out the door and sort of be ready to start the next day.
Wouldn't it be great if people actually met each other and like collaborated from that event?
There's no reason why they couldn't, and there's going to be time built in for people to get to know each other, and I would certainly help facilitate that. I think that's a great place to start, especially if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know anyone, I don't know what to offer, I don't even know where to begin. This could be the place where you begin.
Last question I'm going to ask you is this. Let's say I want to do collaboration with somebody. I haven't really built relationships with any of the other authors. what should I do? Should I go to Amazon and look for the top 20 people in my genre and just take a shot in the dark and contact them with the offer? I mean, in my opinion, that can't hurt. You're probably not going to have that much success because they're going to be really top sellers. You may get a hit. What do you, besides doing that, how do you get started?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a magic bullet for that, but I think your approach is exactly what I would recommend. I would say, don't even start with a collaboration of mine. Find a writer whose work you love and offer to do something for him or her. It could be as simple as scheduling their tweets, or it could be a beta reader. Just start building a relationship, and you'd be surprised what kind of opportunities will come out of that.
Yeah, it really is all about the offer and the ask, and good things come from that. So, all right, well, look, we'll wrap it up here. Hopefully this worked, and if it didn't work, we'll have to redo it again. But you guys have the link. I'll send it out again to the email list. If anybody, I really want to just kind of sell this the best possible way. Both Jay and I are very interested in helping people. I'm a teacher. Jay's a teacher. My mom was a school teacher for 40 years. I built my whole brand for the last 20 years on trying to help people first. And making money is like way down on the list, right? Like right. I could have sold out 20 years ago and done plenty of things on the internet where I would have been living on a beach in Cabo, but it's just not how I want to do things. I'm interested in helping people. And frankly, that's, in my opinion, why my businesses succeed, because I focus on the customer and how I can help them first, not on how much money I can make first.
Right.
And that's how we're approaching this event. That's why we're doing this together, because this is, I know for a fact that if people walk out of this event and they are completely blown away and wowed, I will be extremely disappointed and upset with myself. And I know you're the same exact way. Yeah. So we share that same vision, don't we?
We do. And we're both putting our reputations on the line to doing this. So we're committed to making it as best as we can possibly make it.
Yeah, so it's if you have any qualms about really making an investment and coming out to Cleveland for this, you really shouldn't, because this is something that can really change the way that you write in the future. Cleveland's a beautiful place. The cost of living here is very inexpensive. It's cheap to get here. It's not expensive to stay here. It's going to be a great event. And I think you're going to walk away and go, wow, what a wonderful place to be, and what a wonderful place to have an event. So,
especially in October. It's gorgeous in October in Cleveland.
And we don't have any other thing that's so great about it is, if we were going to do this in Vegas or New York, it would have had to have been so much more expensive, because just the cost of how to do everything out there would just cost so much more money. So if you can find a way to get a plane, a train, an automobile, a cab, an Uber, and get yourself over to Cleveland, I think you're really going to be very happy with this. We do have early bird pricing on the website now until August 31st. We're recording this in late July. So if you want to get in there and grab that before that ends, you're going to be able to get that. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to Jay and myself via Facebook or email, and we'd be happy to talk to you about it. But don't hesitate, because once the seats are gone, they're gone. They're not going to pull any of this scarcity stuff and say, hey, we're opening another room. It's not happening.
It's just the two of us, and we have a finite space, so that's it.
It's a tough decision, because it's not, $200. It's a little bit more than that. But there are moments in your career where you make an investment decision, and you have to decide, is this going to be something that's really going to move me forward? And I think this is going to be one of those things that's going to help you out. So thank you for listening. Jay, thanks for being here and talking with me about this today. Yeah, thanks to everybody on the call. If you're watching this on a replay, head on over to the link. We'll send you the link in the email. And if we don't talk to you, hopefully we'll see you in Cleveland this fall. And, maybe we'll produce some more content before we do the event this fall. But I really hope everybody really considers this and thinks about it, because it's going to be a great time. All right, Jay, have a great day. And everybody out there in the world, we'll see you next time.
See ya.
All right. We'll see you. Bye-bye.